Hi everyone, so welcome along. My name is Rob Taylor from Plan Grow Do, where we help business owners and sales teams find the confidence, process and structure to succeed in sales. And a large part of that is by joining up what modern buying is to modern selling. To help along with that, we like to invite guests and have conversations with experts in their field that contribute to that mission and vision that we have. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Talia Mazepa, who's a program manager over at Impact Coaching. Talia, could you give us a hello, an introduction to who you are and what you do, please?
Sure. Hello, everybody. My name is Talia. As Rob mentioned, I am a program manager here at Impact for the Certified Coaching Program. What we do is a lot of it is based on coaching and implementation of They Ask You Answer philosophy. So I'm excited to talk about the future of marketing and sales.
Super. And thanks for jumping on. I'm excited to see what insights you'll be able to share and contribute to our conversation. And you mentioned They Ask You Answer. Some people might not be aware of the concept, the book. I certainly am from my marketing background, as I think your marketing persuasion. It's an incredible book. It's an approach that does impact and, for me, change people's business, change their approach, change their paradigm, whatever you might want to call it. From your perspective, Talia, could you give us a lowdown of what They Ask You Answer is? Because we're going to reference it a fair bit, and some people might not be familiar with the concept or the book.
I'd be happy to. They Ask You Answer is I would say, a simple philosophy of building trust with your buyer. And the way to do that is by creating content and answering their questions. So what we do is we teach companies to collect questions that buyers are asking throughout the sales process and then answer them honestly and truthfully so that you're starting to build trust with a buyer and you can use that relationship and you can grow that relationship throughout the process. So there's a bit of nuance to it, but that is a very simple methodology.
Yeah, it's, I guess, simple but not easy, because it's something that we try and put over in our approach, in our own methodology, and the businesses that we speak to, is that personalization and that trust that buyers are looking for now. And sometimes people think that is marketing's job. I'm sure you've heard it many, many times. It's not my job, it's marketing's job to do that. When did you see that transition start to happen from, I guess, marketing infiltrating into what was sales, and how can sales learn from what was traditionally marketing? When did that happen, do you think?
Yeah, it's a good question, and indulge me on this thread for a little bit. But Rob, do you have a moment where you thought of, or think of a moment when you made your last big purchase?
I move house quite a lot. So it's probably a house purchase, or this television we're chatting on, actually.
Well, let's take the television, for example. Before you bought that television, you knew that you wanted to buy something. How did you go about that process?
It will have definitely started probably on my phone or opening my laptop. I will have no doubt gone through Google for a search to say, what's the best TV for Zoom recordings for office space? I would have gone through maybe into social media groups, perhaps ask other professionals in that space. You've created a digital space or a digital studio. What do you use? I'd look for kit lists, for example, and that's where I'd start to research.
And what would you do next?
Probably next, I would look for, let's say I went to that group and they were asking, or I asked them about, what have you done? And they sent me some links of reviews of good televisions for home studios or office studios. I'd then click on that link and I'd do some more research about what other people have said, maybe some reviews. I'd look for some 5-star. I'd probably look for some 3-star reviews as well to see where the improvements could be.
You could be wrong with that.
Exactly. I think it's a nice place to start to look. Is 3-star reviews, and I'd probably end up buying a television without speaking to a person.
There you go. What I'm hearing is you would type into Google and look for information about, maybe comparing different TV screens, different TV sizes. You would compare pricing, you would look for reviews and see what problems could be with the articles, and then make the decision without actually talking to a sales process. Is that right?
Absolutely. It's what I do every day, isn't it? And I guess what you do every
Yeah.
day. Now, does that feel, because the cynics watching or listening to this might say, that's fine, it's the television. How does that transpire into business to business or professional services? It's different, isn't it? What would you say to people that say that, Talia?
Well, I would probably take them to the same process. And to answer your previous question about the role of marketing and sales, they're very much, a lot of the sales process right now is done before the buyer is actually talking to the sales person. So whether you're selling a commodity like a TV screen, or whether you're selling services like coaching services or hairstyling services or professional services, whichever it will be, the buyer wants to get educated and the buyer wants to understand what they're getting into before they speak to a sales process. So a lot of the sales process is done online. It's be educating the buyer and building that trust before they actually raise their hand and speak to the salesperson. So I would say
And I think
that.
it's so refreshing to hear you say that, because every time we speak to groups of businesses or individual businesses in that business to business space, it's part of the bit that they start to struggle with. And our research suggests that 57% of a buying decision is made before someone wants to even speak to you as in a position of sales. I think that they ask you answer approach suggests it's slightly higher than that. I think it's 70%, is it something?
Correct. We found it's actually been rising. We found that somewhere between 70 and 80% of buyers want to do their own research before they even speak with a salesperson.
It's incredible, isn't it? And no matter how many times you can tell a sales professional or business development rep those statistics, they still don't change their habits. So are you noticing this in terms of are people more receptive to this information if they are millennials versus perhaps baby boomers? Are you noticing age differences in what people are receptive to? Because there's some research that suggests that 44% of millennial B2B customers don't want to interact with sales reps, and 59% of B2B buyers are millennials. So they're creating their own marketplace. And I guess we have to start being active earlier in the buying journey. Would you agree?
I think that disparity is interesting to keep in mind, but I would think, I think humans are pretty similar in their behavior. And I think whether it's a millennial or a baby boomer or a Gen Z, I think our habits are moving in a similar direction into where we want to get that information before we talk to someone. So I think whether it is whether you're a millennial and you may not even want to speak to someone at a certain point, or whether you're a baby boomer and you would want to interact at a certain point, the trend is that we're all wanting to get more information online.
Absolutely. And I think it's interesting you mentioned the shift from what I gave as a television example into professional services, B2C, business to consumer, and business to business. It has merged, and the power is with the customer. And it's interesting as well that the age differences are shifting. Mm-hmm. It's not just a millennial thing, it's a market shift. Do you think that market shift has drastically changed because of what we saw in the pandemic, or has the pandemic accelerated, do you think, what was going to happen anyway?
I think I would answer that in two ways. Definitely yes. Yes, all around. The pandemic has made a lot of changes in the marketplace, and how people interact with each other and how people make buying decisions. I think one, a lot of face-to-face sales services have moved to virtual sales. So there's a lot of differences in between how someone may sell to someone face-to-face and the interaction that someone may have on Zoom, the commitment that will take, that will require, the amount of education and information that you can provide to someone before you meet with them on Zoom, and then afterwards. Virtual selling is a very, very interesting concept. And to that, I think with businesses not being able to interact to with their buyers face to face, businesses that might have done that before, having to have moved to their selling efforts to virtual platforms. I think they're having to provide a lot more information online. And I think our patience for having a question and having that not being able to be answered on the website has also diminished. If I have a question, if I want to find the price of a TV screen, if you will, and I cannot find that information within 5 seconds of looking at your website, I'm going to go to someone else's website to see if I can find it there. So I think our patience for finding the right information that we want online has diminished, and also the amount of virtual selling has increased.
Yeah, and I think the power really is with the buyer now, isn't it? Whereas it used to be, I guess, in a more traditional sense, a bit before my time, it was door knocking. It was, here's the briefcase, we'll go around certain industrial estates or business centres, the equivalent of cold calling, I guess. Whereas now, certainly from our consumer habits, I think we see it more. If I want to know the price of something and I can't find it online, so I message the rep, for example, the first thing they do is try and get me on the phone, and I don't want to go on the phone. I want you to answer my question.
That's right.
And it almost erodes any trust that's been built up, because it's like, what are you hiding? And we see this from our consumer side, don't we? But when we get into our selling habits or our business development habits and roles, we ditch all that because it's not what we do. How are you starting to break down those barriers in your experiences as an organization? How are you getting people to overcome that hesitancy to embrace this new approach? What blockers are you seeing?
Well, what you're describing is the big F word of the internet: frustration. When you're not finding the information that you want, and you're getting, why are you not answering my question? Why are you not providing me the information that I seek? What do you have to hide? Those are exactly the train of thought that a lot of people follow. And I think you mentioned people might think, oh, sure, that's great for XYZ company, or that's great for maybe face-to-face businesses or people that are selling a specific product, but we're different. But this, we don't really work in that way. And then you dig deeper and you talk to those business owners. Well, how do you make buying decisions? How do you go about the process? And it's the same thread that we all follow. We all want to have that information available to us. We all want to make educated buying decisions. And it's not just about the charisma of the salesperson. It's also about making sure that you're making a right choice for yourself, your home, your family, your business, whatever the product or service may be. So I think to convince the people that are hesitating, embracing the changes that have been made in the past 2 years and with the buyer, you just have to make them understand how they're making those decisions themselves, because they've also changed their habits too.
It's refreshing to hear this from someone like yourself, because it's what we do try and get over in our sessions and work with organizations. Like, how do you buy? What changes have you noticed in how you buy things? And they all explain. I start on Google, I look at reviews, I probably go to my network, I look for my trusted recommendations. But what do you do when you're actually responsible for selling things? We just post without context, the branded post that we've been told we can post. And then they'll say social media doesn't work. And then they'll say it's different in our industry, and all the common objections and pushback. It's just...
Yeah. It's interesting that you bring that up, because I think something as a salesperson that had been doing sales for 5 years previously, I had a very specific process that I followed. And when something works, salespeople may be very resistant to change because it's your livelihood. You're getting commission, something works, why break the wheel? But what we've noticed is, with there's a difference between barraging your customers or buyers or potential clients with information and with just facts and statistics about look at how great we are, look at what awards XYZ company has achieved, as opposed to giving them valuable information that will move them along the process. And this is what is the importance of creating content that addresses their fears, worries, and concerns, because you're providing value, you're educating them, and you're helping them make sure that they're making the right decision for themselves, instead of saying, look at us, look at how great we are, we won this award, we won that award. That's sure to be commended and complimented, but there is a certain kind of information and content that's really helpful for the buyer, and that's the content that provides value.
Yeah, and I guess in terms of the buying journey and the sales process, if all you're doing is saying, we're so experienced, we've been in business 35 years, family run business, they're not ready to see that yet because they're not informed about how you can help them first. I guess that's more of a validation, isn't it? I've made the right choice because they're experienced. They help me understand my problem, which is the gap I think that a lot of people and salespeople seem to have but struggle to address. One thing I'd like to touch on is around, you mentioned that you help people create their own inbound leads, their own inbound strategies. I want to offer some research and insight that we built around this that suggests that content shared by an employee gets 8 times more engagement than the same content just shared from a faceless organization. Mm-hmm. For me, that's a real good hook and motivator for start to build your own content. But why do you think creating that personal brand, creating that personal presence is so important for, I guess, the modern seller, the modern business development rep? Why is it so important to start creating personality in what we do?
Sure. What I would say, positions yourself as an expert in that field. It gives you authority as a subject matter experts, which I'm sure all the salespeople, they're really familiar with their product. They're really passionate about what they do. And sometimes the connection is, why doesn't the client see that? This is the best thing. This is the right solution for them. I know that. How do I get them to know that as well? And it's about positioning yourself as a subject matter expert, as an expert in the field. And if you're giving them educational resources, if you're the one that's sending that content, if you're especially the one that's being interviewed for those articles or providing a help in that way, you're really positioning yourself as someone that is very, very familiar, knows what they do, and can come to solve the client's issue or the buyer's problem that they have.
And what do you say to those people who say, I don't want to be that celebrity. I don't want to be that leading voice. I struggle to come up with my own insights. No one wants to listen to me. How do you, I guess it comes back to the objections and the boundaries. How do you start to tackle those? Because what you're saying makes perfectly logical sense, yet people still don't do it. Or people still continue just to post without context, a faceless brand post that gets no engagement. How can we start to challenge that status quo, do you think, and get people to take that responsibility without being a celebrity?
Well, I think it will take someone very, very consistent and mindful effort to become a celebrity in their own sphere. So I feel like that concern is probably something that can be addressed later on when it becomes a concern. But I think the second part, I apologize. What was the second part of your question?
I was asking about boundaries. How can we start to get people to take that initial responsibility, do you think, to really get them to see that people want to engage with you as a person, because all they do is defer back to hiding behind corporate banners and corporate brands without standing in front of it? You know, I'm not special enough, almost that perspective.
I think in my personal experience, I know a lot of success stories, and we do at Impact feature a lot of case studies where we show the connection between good content and the relationship between marketing and sales teams, and how sales team embrace good content and using that content. But from personal experience watching sales team members, you have one person that starts saying, why not? Let me try this out. And then they see success and they see growth and they see that their buyer is more qualified. They see that their sales cycle has shortened. They see that their conversations are more effective and they're having less calls and they're closing deals faster. And it takes one person to see those changes and comment on those changes for that to spread to other people. So I would say, try it out, and it only takes one person in the company, one sales team member, to start seeing success and start understanding that this is the way that our buyers' interactions are moving. If you put yourself in the position of the buyer, what would you want? Well, how would you see? How would you want that experience to go? So that's the kind of conversation that I would have with the sales team members.
Yeah, thanks. It's interesting about that. You notice the shorter sales cycles, the less calls to make a sale. It's living proof, isn't it, that the buying selling relationship has changed. We can slow it down at the front end if we want to then speed that process up when someone nominates or realizes they've got a problem that you can solve. You said something previously about becoming a celebrity, and it's almost like that's what they fear. It's like 99.9% of people won't be celebrities, but we set our bar so high that we think that's what we have to achieve. And when we're down the bottom, we can't see that as an achievable goal. And I just think we set one risk as that's the reason I won't do it. It's that one thing, because the bar's so high. What, as you just said, be consistent in a message that helps a group of people.
That's
you don't
right.
have to be a celebrity, right?
That's very true.
So how do you think, in terms of they ask, you answer methodology and the work that you do at the Impact, you've said about, but the clue is in the title in terms of they ask, you answer. I need to start creating, as a business owner or as a sales director, content that answers my customers' problems. Sounds so easy. How can we start doing it? Where do we start? Where does that journey begin to start researching this? Because great, I understand it. I'm going to do it. We're going to create a content plan. What do your customers want?
Yeah.
Then what? Where does that start, Talia?
Yeah, and this is something that we work with our clients. When we're coaching clients through the methodology of they ask, you answer, and teach them to take their own inbound efforts in-house, take control of their marketing efforts, it's a process. Usually we're working with clients for about 18-month contracts. It's a slow process where we're building good habits, we're getting into a good cadence. So by the time that it comes time to the end of those 18-month graduation, if you will, they're ready and they see success and they know how to continue without having to hire a digital marketing agency. A place where to start is, one, to hire a content manager, someone who's really, it doesn't have to be in that industry, but someone that's really passionate about writing and can talk to subject matter experts and then put that information into articles. But how do you find the content? Which questions do you answer? How do you do that? You start with your buyer. You sit down and have a brainstorm about key questions that your buyers are asking. Those key things that we discussed at the beginning of the call that you would do when you're searching for a TV, for example. How much does this cost? What can be the problems that happen with it? Comparisons, this TV versus that TV, this company versus that company. What are other competitors that are selling it? Things that the buyer might look for when they're going to Google or going to search. Have a think. That should be quite a healthy content generation idea that you can start working on and can start writing content or producing videos about. And then to that, salespeople are a great source of continuous content, because salespeople are always having conversation with a buyer, whether it's by email or whether it's recording sales calls or whether it's going live to talk to buyers. Buyers are always asking questions, and it might be a similar question, but there might be a different way to address it. And so having a clear communication access between the marketing team or the content manager and the salespeople, having the salespeople involved in the process, because they ask you answers, a sales first initiative. It's to help salespeople really sell more effectively, shorten their sales cycle, and have a better relationship with the buyer. And so getting those questions from the buyer, from the salespeople to the content manager is the best way to go. And then the content manager reviewing sales calls, listening to questions. The buyer is where your questions are. It's not about looking at what's popular or what's SEO. It's making sure that you're looking at the way that the buyers are asking the question in the way that they're asking it.
I think that right there, Talia, is a great insight. I think the alignment or the joining up of sales and marketing, it helps sales reps who might not see their position in generating marketing content. It helps really define that. This is what my customers or prospects are actually saying to me. I like the idea. I think you suggested almost like a ride along with the content manager or marketing to actually go and listen in. Because if the salesperson's forever trying to close, whether they should be or shouldn't be, there might be clues given that they just miss. Whereas if marketing's almost in the room as well, I think that's a fantastic opportunity that businesses can take to deliberately join up sales and marketing. So it isn't frontline sales and catalog generating marketing, but they're actually deliberately working together. I think that's a great insight. And I think you mentioned it's a slow process. I love that. The fact that so many people want a silver bullet, they want it to happen now. I'm going to write one article and the floodgates are going to open for me. And if it doesn't, content doesn't work. It's a slow process. And I think that for me is something to hammer home on with what you were saying. At 18 months, do you think that's, I assume that's the sort of length of your period of time that you consult with a company, but is that a deliberate decision because that's how long you expect it to take to see results at a meaningful level? What's the sort of lifespan from, I guess, inception to results? Is it 18 months?
Yeah, so 18-month is the average length of our mastery contracts. And these are agreements that companies sign to, again, take control of their inbound methodology, inbound marketing efforts, and then implement, they ask you answer, and master, they ask you answer. So 18-month is the average time frame, but different companies average. Some may need a little bit longer. Sometimes you lose a content manager. Some are really, really well adapted and get there much faster. But mastery means that after graduating, you don't need any coach. You don't need a marketing agency. You're not using paid ads. You're getting leads, and your sales team members are getting leads from organic traffic. So it means that leads that come to their website are much more educated. To see results, I would say, again, it's different to different agency, but once you start publishing 3 articles per week consistently, that's when you really start to see an effort. And to get to 3 articles consistently, it might take a month, it might take 2, it might take 6, but once you get to publishing 3 articles a week consistently, that answers buyers' questions, that providing value and educating people, and then you keep on doing that, then we've seen hockey stick growth where one of our case studies started at 210 visitors, organic visitors per month, and 20 months later, that we're at 120,000 visitors from organic traffic. So it's just doing it consistently, and you have to do it for the rest of your time. Buyers will never stop asking questions. You have to keep on answering things. If you can get more than 3, that's even great, but it's doing so consistently. And this is something that we hammer home in the first couple of months as we're interacting with a client. But you're right, it's usually building good habits, doing it consistently. And unfortunately, there's no silver bullet. There's no magic pill. There's no they ask you answer late. You just have to do it and do it well.
And that's what makes this industry and our approach to try and do it properly quite boring, I guess. It is slow, it's habitual, it's not magic, it's not a silver bullet, but do it consistently and results will come. You mentioned about the three articles per week, which is the goal, I guess, for the businesses that you work with. When you say about articles, do you mean blogs, or can that content take the form of infographics, videos, white papers? Is that any form of insightful content, or are you specifically talking about articles through blogs?
I would say 3 articles per week, 3 blogs per week is a good place to start. Once you get into a good habit of publishing consistently, If you think your buyers will get value from an infographic, from a buyer's guide, that's great. Video is another great resource. I think there's a statistic where it's 70 or 80% of content consumed online is video content. So video is another really, really great way to educate your buyer and to get that content across. But it comes in addition to publishing 3 articles a week, because 3 articles a week will get you that organic growth. If you have capability to do video, it's a great addition to in addition to the blog posts. But I would say 3 articles per week for blog posts is a great place to start.
Yeah, great. I think that's a good measure and a good target for people listening to try and achieve and realize it is a long investment of time and effort and thought. I guess there's a big mental capacity on that to write for 3 times a week on top of what you're doing. But you know, I love it. You love it. It's new to some, but it's an ever changing environment, isn't it? And I wonder, in terms of your or our marketplace, what do you think the future holds for buying and selling? What does the future hold for a content space? And I guess what does the future hold for impact and the work that you're doing?
I think the future of the content space, video is going to be a big component. We're seeing that track to people embracing video, people consuming more video online, people looking for video specifically when they're researching buying processes, when they're researching in their buying process what they want to purchase. So video is going to be a big part of content production. However, with that, I think blog posts will also continue to play an important part. And this is why hiring someone to own content is one of our key priorities from the beginning, because that's what gets you your ranking. That's what gets you in front of your buyer. And that helps in educating the process. I think one of the statistics that you shared with me is that 90% of buyers look at content before talking to, raising their hand or talking to a salesperson. And it's interesting because when Marcus Sheridan started writing content and he started to go to the author of the Ask You Answer and started to go to his buyers after building up a library of content, he found that an average number of articles that his buyer read was about 30 articles. So different industries have different engaging, but our buyers are definitely wanting to be educated, whether it's through blog posts or through video. So I think that will continue to grow and video will play a bigger part. For impact, we've had a lot of changes in the past 3 years and we will continue to change. That's the nature of the industry. We used to be more of a traditional digital marketing agency that's focusing more on implementation, but in the mid 2010s, we merged with Marcus Sheridan's company, The Sales Lion. We've noticed over a couple of years that our best case studies came from The Sales Lion. And The Sales Lion was really focused on teaching people how to implement the Ask You Answer, coaching rather than implementation. And in the past 2 to 3 years, Impact has also switched more over to a coaching model where at this point, a lot of the services that we offer, most of the services that we offer are coaching services. And this is something that most of our profit is coming from coaching services as well. And we have lofty plans to get others to be passionate about the Ask You Answer, to grow businesses, to help businesses thrive, to take control of their own marketing efforts. And to get there, we're also partnering with other coaches, other agencies, other entrepreneurs and consultants through the certified coaching program, which is what I do, where we teach individual consultants or agencies how to do what we do, how to coach their clients, how to coach their clients through the Ask You Answer, how to hold them accountable, and be successful in doing so. So I think coaching and consulting and helping clients grow in that way rather than implementation is going to be the future for us and also the space as well.
Yeah, wow, it's an exciting time, isn't it, Talia? I think it's a changing landscape, but one that I think if you can grasp, then it's a very exciting time moving forwards. And I look forward to watching your development, the They Ask You Answer, the Impact Group, and Marcus Sheridan's work is always incredible to listen to and engage with. So keep it up. I'm sure you will, 3 times a week. Talia, how can we connect with you or find out more about yourself, Impact, They Ask You Answer? Where can we connect?
Sure. I'll drop some information in the after Rob shares the recording, but feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm always available for a chat or to find out more, or if you're ever curious about anything. And if you heard me talk about this and you're a consultant or an agency owner and you're curious about bringing in the Ask You Answer to your clients or getting better at your coaching skills, feel free to book some time with me. We have cohorts for coaches that kick off at different points of the year. We just kicked off cohort 6 last week, and we're kicking off cohort 7 in August. And we're very, very excited to be working with other businesses that are passionate about They Ask You Answer, and are also looking to take their agency or their business to a more coaching structure. So I will leave those details with the recording, but I'll be excited to talk to anybody.
Superb. Nice one. Talia, thank you so much for spending some time with us today and discussing marketing's role in sales and how sales and marketing work together. It's a minefield, but it's an exciting one. And thank you for contributing to this conversation. Talia Mazepa, we'll speak very soon. Take care.
It's been a pleasure, Rob. Cheers.
Thank you.